so fetch.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Kaiya, and today we're going to be listening to Blood Incantation's 2016 album, Starspawn. This is a partnered video with Dark Descent Records, and I am so excited to listen to one of their artists. This was a poll winner. We did a Dark Descent artist poll the other week, as some of y'all might remember, and Blood Incantation was our winner. Before we get into the video, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please feel free to do so. I post weekly videos documenting my metal journey, okay? I also have a Discord, the Moshpit. There's an invite link down below in the description, as well as my P.O. Box if you feel inclined to send something to be featured in my metal unboxing video. Also, peep the Patreon girl, okay? That's brand new to the channel. I'll have a link also in my description, so just take a look at it, okay? Just take a look. That's all I ask. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started with Blood Incantation's album, Starspawn. The first track we're going to get into is Vitrification of Blood, Part 1. The guitarist, whatever they're doing over here, far right pan, he's having a good time. He's having a real good time. I mean, I love that he's like, at the beginning, he's doing this one riff and kind of adds like this sass to it to change it up, and then goes back to the main riff, and then he starts doing this like super repetitive. It's kind of giving me weird comparison, but Teenage Wasteland, The Who, that's kind of like the beginning riff of that thing, that song. That's kind of what it's giving me, and it is awesome because he does it for so long that it makes this pocket kind of monotonous, but in a good way, so that when they open it up to this kind of like, I'm assuming this is kind of like a chorus something, where he layers his vocals and does the whoa, and it kind of like opens up. It really feels like it's opening up. Really nice. Also getting some like Morbid Angel vibes, some Suffocation vibes. It kind of just like smashed you in the face. So I'm liking it so far. Let's continue. Wow.
Into a different section, because now it's like the far left pan again, and we're going to open up into another pocket. This guitarist, it says it down here, guitarist, vocals, so they have two guitarists. I'm assuming it's Morris. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that last name. Sorry, that looks like a tongue twister. But Morris, who's labeled as just guitars, I'm assuming that's him as lead, and he's just the pocket they gave him for this solo, he just had a fun time. He's just kind of like all over the place, but like in a it's like meant to be like that. It's like meant to be almost like, I can describe it like the scenes in like a horror movie where like the person's trying to get away and there's like the strobe lights and they're like panting and trying to get away, and it's like very disorienting. That's kind of how this solo is. And it opens up really nicely, and I love that they like bring everything down and then go all the way to this left pan to kind of indicate a separate chapter within this song. I'm getting some black metal vibes. I'm pretty sure Blood Incantation is just death metal, but I might be wrong. But yeah, I'm getting some like little bit of like Emperor, little bit of Immortal, just a little bit. Y'all know I like my black metal and I like my death metal, and now I'm into grindcore. Who would have thought? I wouldn't have. So let's continue into what I'm guessing is like the third chapter of this song.
Okay, they're breakdowns. Let's collect ourselves. I need to collect myself for a second. Oh my lord. Okay. Beautiful, like, little solo riff there. Oh, and I love how he was like kind of, I don't know what he was doing to like make it kind of like hiccup with like pitch difference. I don't know if he was like, he wasn't showing, I don't know, words. I don't know what he was doing to make it hiccup like that. But I loved it. Such a beautiful melody. It's kind of like melancholic. And I love it. And I love all the breakdowns. Oh my gosh. It really is. It's reminding me of Obituary. Our Boy's Obituary. Because, like, it's kind of giving me, like, the redneck stomp, kind of like southern rock metal vibe that kind of song has. I'm kind of getting a little bit of that in this, just a sprinkle, mixed in with the like epic black metal sound of Immortal and Emperor. Really, really nicely layered. Again, the guitarist is just having fun time. I love the layered vocals. The fat breakdowns. They're money. And we still have 5 minutes of this song, so let's continue. Oh my lord. Alright, okay, that's the first song. That's the first song that we're working with. Here. Bro. Ignore my neighbor's freaking dog. Lord have mercy. Okay, this song, though, can we talk about it? I feel like my brain just went, like, on a journey and an emotional roller coaster. I'm getting an Abstract Illusion vibes, too, because that was, like, a 13-minute track. And okay, they slam you hard with, like, just straight fast-paced extreme metal in your face. And then they go into, like, the breakdown section, back to amping it up, and then they have, like, really slow breakdown, I feel like, that I think if I remember. And then it goes into this, like, two different emotional, kind of, like, melancholy, sad sections. One that was definitely more sad, beautiful solo in that section. Then they kind of pick it up a little bit, and then towards the end, that's where they kind of, they pick it up again a little bit, and then they bring it down to this beautiful section. That's kind of like what reminded me, sort of around the 11-minute mark. That's what reminded me of an Abstract Illusion. And then they just jump into, like, the amplified section of the end, and then they even amplify it even more and go, like, double time. I love how it's all laid out. The production is great. Everything. I have no words. I'm emotional. Considered rock, death metal, metal. I would say it's more like death metal, kind of like black metal, and a little atmospheric. But I know that they're, like, considered death metal. But that's kind of what I got. And a little bit of that, like, redneck stomp vibe. But what really stood out were the very melancholic, sad parts. The fatty breakdowns and the usage of the vocals and, like, the doubling and the layered vocals that he had. And then also the main lead guitar was just pinched fingers. Okay, so the next song we are going to go into is it called Chaoplasm? I think that's what it's called. So let's get into Chaoplasm. Subtle change into this section with the chorus in terms of the vibe. It's like such a nice transition into this, like, different groove. And I love how in the beginning, before they get into this groove part, his vocals kind of have an echo. I mean, they do. They have a 2 different echoes. So it's like brah, 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 or whatever. And then when they get into this section, this groove, it's like brah, and then just one single echo. So it really like opens it up. I love this groove. He's doing is interesting because it's almost like he's finishing the pattern like a beat early before the drums, but it's like it works. It's like like it doesn't feel like it's going. I don't know. My brain wants it to do the full pass, but he's cutting it short a little, which makes this whole section a little odd. It makes me feel like I'm bouncing around, and I love how it starts clean and then he starts adding, I don't know if it's a wah pedal or what it is, but it's almost like it's got the same effect as if they were moving his guitars, panning like both left and right in the speakers, but it's just staying stagnant to here. I don't know exactly what that's called, but I'm assuming there's some sort of like pedal effect that he's got on there. So if you know what that is, let me know. I'd be curious. But I don't think it's a wah pedal. Let's continue. Ooh. Oh. Giving me like total space vibes. And then I think it's silence for a second. Yeah, and then the next track starts. Okay, girl. This one was definitely so much in your face. Definitely a different vibe, considering part one was like an epic in the terms of like, I'm realizing this about metal music, is like these longer 13-minute tracks and things like that, they're really like epics. It's like listening to a movie. But there's no like physical footage in front of you. It's just like whatever your brain decides to conjure up in your mind. But this one was a totally different vibe. You didn't have that like sad, melancholic sort of section. And there weren't too many fatty breakdowns. But what they didn't have with those, they definitely had with really strong vocals, lots of double bass, and lots of great guitar lead riffs and just interesting timing. Especially with this last like burn up, it was like it was kind of like pinball triangle sort of thing that I was imagining. I don't know, burn up, and then it would go into some sort of like side riff thing that like, and then somehow get it back into this little thing, but it didn't work, but it worked. If that makes sense. I'm enjoying what I'm hearing though. The other thing I caught was they had the same exact stop that they had in part one as they did in this song, which everything stops, they pull everything back, do the hard left pan of just this like muffy guitar, and then really sweet drum fill, everything comes in. So they did the same thing, and I'm wondering if there's some sort of like musical story connection to that, because now we're going to get into part two. So I'm wondering if, you know, they had two of those breakdowns in part one, so it's like almost like 3 different sections to that song. Here's kind of like a journey transition piece, and then we get into part two. So maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking too much into it, but I like to think about these things because every musician has, when they're creating an album, there's a lot more to the story than you think. Unless you're like, even if you're like a major pop star, I would hope that there would be more meaning to the placement of your songs, your track list in an album, okay? At least that's what I would hope. So let's look at Star Spawn. So the vitrification was like falling through the Stargate within, but is this the first or the last time again? Opening between the gates on either side, spiraling, awaken in another mind. Star Spawn. Suffocating, the glass freezes inside your veins. Die, release your flesh to the astral plane. The violent plane of suffering, your blood has vitrified. Boiling the pulp beneath, liquefy your mind. Fear the pain, fire awaits. Interesting. And then, is it chioplasm or chaoplasm? Like chaos, but plasm? Chaoplasm? I don't know. I'm assuming it's like kind of based on the album cover and the lyrics of at least the first song. Buried underneath the sand in the desert, opening how the ancients foretold, glowing with the light of God in the temple. So they have sort of the same lyrical format for chioplasm as they do with part one. One word kind of like reverberating out, and then they have the rest of it. I wonder if it's like connected, or if there's like a story, if it's a kind of a concept album, or it's just like songs put together. I don't know. It seems older though. The sound of this band definitely doesn't sound like 2016 to me. Maybe I'm wrong, because because I'm such a new me to metalhead, okay? But it doesn't sound 2016 to me. This is giving me like Suffocation, like 90s vibes. I'm really impressed with the vocalist so far. They're just like the layering of his vocals, and he's doing a lot of like the black metal vocals of just kind of these like ambient raw sort of things, you know, just holding out these like kind of moany growls. And the reverb on his voice is beautiful. That is definitely something I'm noticing too. So I don't know, you let me know your thoughts. Was Blood Incantation like, you know, kind of I guess they wouldn't be ahead of their time, but I guess they're mastering a older sound, I guess you could say. So this next one is called Hidden Species, Vitrification of Blood Part 2. And this one is like 6 minutes long almost. So let's go. Drum filling. Into this next section, sorry, quick pause. I love how they opened that up. And I love that the bass is doing this like total dissonant sort of like thing that you can, it's just so different. It's the first time I'm really hearing the bass in the mix, because it's been definitely a little bit lower in comparison to everything else, but you can hear it in this section, and it's beautiful, because it's again a little unsettling, but it's wonderful. And then with this, like, they open it a little bit more with the lead guitarist doing these nice, beautiful, high riffs, I guess you could say, melody. But then they have this, like, to kind of add to it, they're adding this, like, static element, real buried over here, to kind of complement it. So it almost sounds like it's disconnected almost, or just to give this section a little bit more of a disconnection, you know, a little bit more space. I don't know, but I really, really like it. Let's continue. Okay, Kaiya, I'm gonna go pee real quick. I'm gonna go pee. I'll be right back. Sorry, Kaiya. Okay, Pete, let's go. Different vocals in that section. Ooh. What a difference from part 1. Okay, 2 things that I noticed that they did differently in this song than they did in part 1. 2 new things that they introduced in this album. The first is different, like, style vocals. So they did a little bit more cleans, definitely more lower cleans, little bit of choral vocals, just a tad. They introduced it, which was really nice. And then they had some sort of vocal interlude thing that they put over that, like, kind of spacey, melancholic section, which really it made me think of Iowa. It made me think of Iowa from Slipknot. I know, weird comparison, but that's kind of the vibe I got. And also this ending solo had that kind of like redneck stomp twang to it. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like it's not a super clean solo. He's not a super clean soloist, if that makes sense. It's not like perfect in every sense. It's like he really likes to have his solos be just unpolished, I guess you could say. So like either just a little off, little more like pitch issues or something. I don't know. I'm not great at words describing things, but I can tell the difference. It's like it's in tune, but it's a little out of tune, but it works for the whole vibe of the song. Also, I noticed at the very beginning of this, they had again that stop. And part of me, this is probably just like my brain farting around, but part of me was thinking, okay, they had that stop, pan right, and then they did a little drum fill and then got into the whole rest of the song, and you didn't really have another of that formulaic stop that they had with the rest of the album. But part of my brain was thinking, okay, like what if like the music before that stop in the beginning of part 2 is supposed to go with the music and storyline of the stuff in Chioplasm before that other stop. That's kind of where my brain was at. I think I'm just digging too deep into it, honestly. But that's what I was thinking. Because they're obviously trying to tell this story, and there's so many different elements to this album that I'm noticing, and so many different bands, and I really, really loved the clean vocal section, but I loved the interlude vocal in like section that they put in here. So really, really nice. Yeah, it's got black metal vibes for sure. So I really like it. Hidden Species, Vitrification of Blood. I'm wondering what that is. Like, I'm wondering what that means. Star Spawn. Maybe it's like a fallen angel. Like, it could be like an angel that's falling from heaven, but instead of landing on Earth, they keep falling. And now, like, it's maybe vitrification is like them, like that realization, and then getting into like what, like hell or something. Again, could be totally making everything up. These beings are hiding outside of time, tethering star seeds inside your mind, rotten seeds grown inside astral beings from beyond, corrupting your DNA to make your soul obsolete. Very simplified lyrics overall. He's not saying too much. They're not doing these, like, for how long the songs are, their lyrics are pretty stripped down and simple. Caught between the empty fields of time and dimensions that are lost to the worlds we know as real. Blood Incantation. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy it so far. We got 2 more songs. The next one is called Meticulous Soul Devourment. into the next song, but Voice of the Soul from Death, that's what that reminded me of. Let's let it just roll us into Star Spawn, the title track. Wash over me. Still on the fourth song. Are they gonna let it fade or continue? Oh, they let it fade. Okay, fifth song. Nice. This next section, he's singing his lyrics a lot faster in this song, like rapping basically. It's kind of what it is, a lot faster. All of the other songs were like very kind of like droned out, long, short lyrics, and this is like punch, 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 punch. Also, Meticulous Soul Devourment. Y'all know acoustic guitar is my weakness, and the layering of acoustic guitar on the left and the electric guitar on the right, both of them matching, was beautiful. And I loved how it kind of just went with this spacey outro. Faded. I kind of wish that they had like gone into, like Star Spawn had carried that sort of fade. But either way, I love how like Star Spawn just like grabs your attention. It's just like, huh, and then it kind of does this like doo that you see in those like movies, like the drop bass kind of whoosh bass effect, and then it goes into the song. That was money. So now we've got these stops too. This is our second one in this song, and I love how he's doing these, and then we get into the song. So let's see what the next chapter is for this song. the like staccato double bass, it's very jarring because you want him to continue to do it, but it makes those sections where the double bass isn't there like so empty. But if they do this section with the double bass continuing, it's going to make it pop. But I love how it's like empty, empty. So it definitely helps to like break up this kind of the monotony of this riff that I'm guessing Morris is playing. That's how it ends? Jeez. Okay, so what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this album? I'll tell you mine. Oh my gosh. I'm just like still not like trying to get over Meticulous Soul Devourment. I feel like altogether there were so many different chapters, and I'm hearing so many different bands that influenced their sound. I mean, Meticulous Soul Devourment was the first one where I really heard death influence, but it's kind of interesting because I heard more death influence in Star Spawn afterwards than I did in any of their other ones in terms of some of the like lead guitar sections. I loved how the double bass section I just mentioned, I love how they brought in the double bass ending, but they also opened it up with the solo, just this wailing note. So both of those things coming in combined at the same time really opened up that section. Really strong way to close the album too. So many different elements. Definitely not just a straight death metal album in my opinion. I think it's a lot of like atmospheric black metal. They have some black metal, just straight like that sound. You do have death metal. You have some like more modern aspects to it as well. Same with An Abstract Illusion. They had a very modern sound with Woe. And that's what you get here. Very interesting the way everything is layered. You get a lot of like kind of Insomnium-esque sad boy elements. You do get that. A lot of like beautiful reverb, slow vocals, kind of droney vocals. And then this last song, Star Spawn, he picks it up. He starts kind of like rapping, giving it to you fast. Meticulous Soul Devourment, beautiful way to kind of break up the record and give you this like instrumental track. There was a lot of like ambient kind of spacey-esque noise. And maybe I'm only thinking space because it's called Star Spawn, but it was making me think of Alien. It was making me think of like space and being stuck out in space and whatever else. Yeah, there was a lot of, again, I feel like their pauses are meticulous. There's a reason why their pauses are there, because every single pause, pan left. And I love how each one was different, but the same. Especially in Star Spawn, they were the same. The structure was there. Pause, pan left, drum thing here, pan left, everybody comes in. But then in the other songs, part 1, Chaoplasm, and part 2, it was like stop, left, whooshing drum fill. Or my favorite, which I think was in part 2, was like stop, pan left, and then they had like one little drum clink or whatever, and then they would come back. So it's like each one was different. I really loved the placement of it. It kind of made it unique, but also felt like there was different chapters. It broke it up a little bit. I think the guitar solos were really unique. Again, they were imperfect, and they felt like they were meant to be that way. So they're not super polished. They're a little bit gritty. They're a little out of the ordinary. So it's just not something that you would expect, but it works. So it's kind of like offsetting the whole song. I do wish that there were maybe a little bit more kind of like cleans. They just had that one little pocket of kind of choral-esque vocals in part 2. And I feel like he could have maybe expanded on that a little bit in part 1. But that is also the song where they introduced, you know, those kind of clean vocals as well as the interlude voice. So it's kind of amplifying things in that way as well. So I could see that being the reasoning why they didn't do that, at least for part 1. Looking at the album, though, it definitely looks like Chaoplasm and Soul Devourment are like interlude tracks to the main parts of the song, which as a whole is probably like Vitrification of Blood part 1, then part 2, and then Star Spawn, but the other 2 songs are just like these like interludes in a way, if that makes sense. Again, I'm probably just way overthinking it, but I really love the elements, the mix of atmospheric black metal, death metal, and the modern kind of atmospheric sound, I guess, that you would get. So what are your thoughts? Let me know what you think about Blood Incantation. What do you think about this album, Star Spawn? A lot of you said Blood Incantation was a really, really awesome band, and you were very excited about them winning the poll. So I can see why, okay? Because they definitely delivered. It's a very interesting mix of sound that I'm hearing, but I really enjoyed it. So thank you so much once again to our partner, Dark Descent Records. I will have everything linked down below, per usual, in my description. Y'all know the deal. With Blood Incantation, their record Star Spawn, any of their new albums, as well as their merch, and information about Dark Descent Records. I highly encourage you guys to check them out. Go to their website, look at more of their artists on there. Again, the poll that Blood Incantation was featured in was a Dark Descent poll. So go check out that poll. It's in my community post. You can check out more of the bands that were in there. But yeah, like I say in every video, record labels that support our channel, we should support them back. You know, two-way street, girl, all right? So again, all the links will be in the description. Thank you so much once again to Dark Descent Records. Just super grateful. So I'm going to leave you there. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Let me know your thoughts down below about Blood Incantation. Like, share, subscribe. You know the deal. And check out my Patreon. So that's what I got. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, you guys.